What's that? What's that? Everyone in this hallway is just looking at us like we're idiots.
They know.
Welcome to the coffee show, everyone. I'm Kirk Pearson. This is Kai, mother effing Janson.
Howdy, everyone.
Kai, owner of Thinker Janson in Panama.
One of many in the family. So
One of
not
many in the family.
No, yeah.
All right, the patriarchal
The
head.
guy that gets blamed for being the guy in front of everything.
When things are going well, you'll take ownership.
Always.
Yeah.
Bad as well.
What are you doing here? Why do coffee farmers from Panama travel to expos like these? Because if I may give a preamble here, it's not like demand for your coffee is high, right? I don't feel like you have a problem selling it all each year. So why is it that you travel? I mean, I'm glad you do, but
Well, I'm in coffee to connect with people and raise awareness. So how do you do that? By meeting face to face, having that connection of brewing coffee for them, so they get a chance to really experience my coffee, the way that we love it. So it's a part of that. It's a part of learning from different experiences. My go-to statement is, if coffee was easy, we'd call it wine. Me as a producer, I could produce a bottle of wine, coffee, and then put it, in a glass, and that's pretty much it. But coffee at every single stage is really dependent on that stage, whether it be growing, processing, traveling, storing, roasting, brewing, the water, the cup. The cup changes things. I'm serving great coffee in paper cups, and hopefully the coffee can overcome that thing. But at the same time, every great coffee producer wants to become a great wine producer. So we learn as much as we can to see how to control and create better quality. Well,
that's an interesting point you bring up, because coffee in general is it's having its boom era. More and more people around the world are drinking it. More and more people are becoming interested in high-end coffees, a lot of the stuff that you produce. I actually had a little conversation with Justin from Longboard Coffee the other day, and he mentioned that he's going to start putting his coffees to auction, so auctioning off the coffee. And the interest has just grown enormously in the last, 5 to 10 years, even the last 2 or 3 years. So how do you view that as a coffee farmer?
Well, I view coffee as, something it's dying with weather that we're trying to somehow transform so that we can keep it alive. And that means quality. So knowing exactly how to produce great coffee doesn't stop on the farm. It goes all the way to the cup and to the lips. So I've been in the coffee business longer than most people that ask me how long I've been in the coffee business. I've been in the coffee business since 1992.
Okay.
Last time I was in Indonesia was 30 years ago.
So this is your first trip here in 30 years?
First trip to Indonesia in 30 years. Never to Jakarta, because I was always going to Bali. I did the Jakarta airport just to hang out with surfers that were doing G-land.
Mm. To say what's that to people.
I've been interested in all the nuances of coffee because every little thing matters for so long that it's fantastic to get to the point that there's a reception for it, that people are up for it, So it's a mission for me to share as much love as I can with coffee, and going to shows like this is sharing the love and also getting the love, It's wonderful in these times to have a great cup of coffee and share it with people.
What can you tell us about producing coffee in 1992? Because, I wouldn't have any idea what it's like.
No, so I actually started doing coffee before my family. I created a coffee product and I moved to Seattle. So before my family ever sold coffee, I was doing coffee.
What were you doing?
I was doing a coffee product. We'll leave it at that for the most part.
Okay.
So I had a choice of I created a product which was going to be testing. I worked for the Environmental Protection Agency. I had a fellowship as an undergrad in advanced technology and economic policy. Because going into business and the environment, I think they were both about creating value, but they had the wrong scorecards. So how do you generate it together? So that was sort of my focus in college. And then one of those things was looking at the different problems, and lead in paint was something that was in water was pretty difficult for a lot of people because it really affects children. So I was going to create a product that was doing that. Or I was going to create I created a coffee product, which was like an empowering coffee product. The problem with it was that it was an empowering coffee product. The whole idea was to buy less of it.
Okay. All right.
So it doesn't work in this sort of capitalist system. And So I moved to Seattle to start that product back in 1992.
Did you have any?
So
Sorry.
growing coffee back then was a different world because coffee was 60 cents a pound. And for the most part, specialty was mixed between Starbucks, which was milk-based, and there was another company that George Howe ran that got bought by Starbucks in the end. But they were doing estate coffee. They were doing different things. So I started marketing estate coffee in 1995. I did the first seed to cup website. It's still up there, estatecoffee.com, just to keep it as a relic, because what it starts with is coffee is a very interactive product. You know, you can do whatever you want with it. It's how you connect with it. And nowadays, when you were talking about it, the heyday, this is like the golden age of coffee for sure. I see just such benefits in people and the reception. I mean, in a way, I'd say that I was always like far. I mean, in 94, I created we started doing coffee in 93 was when we had our beneficio. My dad came to visit me in Seattle where I was doing the coffee product, and he fell in love with specialty coffee. And we were growing coffee already to try and save our family farm that my grandfather had bought. We were told coffee would be the best thing to do, so we started planting coffee, Gatois in particular. And I had a friend, Ed Liebrick at Lighthouse, who ended up being the guy who trained Dwayne Sorensen at Stumptown. We brought the coffee up. The coffee tasted great. It was pretty world class. And the whole idea back then was to do estate coffee. So estate coffee was that you tasted coffee from one estate, one land. Because most of the coffee that was going through was just going to different coffee mills called beneficios in Latin America. And so you never tasted your own coffee. So we would, in the beginning, we didn't sell to anybody else because my dad came back and built the first really specialty coffee only beneficio in Latin America back in 6 months, which was unheard of. But back then, we're talking about 60 cents for most people. This was before SCAP, just to give like 3 years or 4 years before SCAP. We started marketing and we cupped our coffees and we did estate coffee. So we sold like coffee for $2.50, which was like 4 times the value of what it was there, and $3. And coffee was very different. I learned how to cup with Tim Castle, who wrote The Perfect Cup, and the Gerardo Astuas, which was the head cupper of E-Cafe in Costa Rica. Gerardo was a great guy, but his cupping score sheet was basically body and acidity. That was about it. So E-Cafe, all of Costa Rica was pushing something called Catimor 75, and my family bought into it. They bought into it. I was against it from the start. Didn't like it. Catimor tastes very herbal, vegetal, especially if it's not processed. Back in those days, wash coffee was the way to go in Latin America. We did wash coffee, and basically the theory on doing a beneficio was let the coffee speak for itself. You can't do anything to improve it. You weren't a winemaker. You weren't doing different things to create different flavors like we get to do now. And Catimor just absolutely sucked. I thought it was a waste of time. It was an agribusiness model that really almost ruined our whole family. And luckily we changed course. Luckily, Panama realized its place in terms of being a very special terroir.
Well, that's an interesting point to segue to, because a lot of coffee history is kind of recent history in specialty terms, right? So I think it was about 2004 that Geisha arrived in Panama. Is that correct?
The Geisha was discovered and rediscovered. So
explain that to me.
So what that means is that Geisha, came from Geisha, but it was written as Geisha when it went to the Tanzania, whatever those facilities were called, that the British were doing to sort of curate different varieties.
So Geisha, for everyone listening back home, is like a specific cultivar.
Panama calls it with a I, because that's how the paperwork was done that was written. So that's how it stuck. But that was brought over by different families to Panama because it was resistant to certain things, and it was planted and sort of not discovered, so to speak. It's very much, very floral, very different, very sort of high-end Ethiopian, but Panama was known for having soft, sweet coffee, which is one of the reasons that a lot of Panama coffee was bought and then used and sold as Kona coffee. So way back when, I don't know if you know this, there was a huge thing that this guy from the farm was actually ironically called Kirk and Kai farm. He got busted for reselling Panamanian coffee as Kona coffee.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I know there was like a issue with counterfeit Kona coffee. I think Amazon was selling coffee labeled as Kona.
We're talking way back when. We're still talking the 90s. When
Right,
this happened.
okay.
Like it was a criminal case. I mean, it was being sold to Starbucks, other people. There were people that were sort of complicit that were in the Starbucks line. But people can read that. I'm not trying to claim that I have any knowledge of it. It was just very ironic for me to be pushing Panama coffee and my name was Kai and it was Kona Kai. It's like, okay, are you the same thing? It was like, no. I just know our coffee was great. I mean, when I started, we did a brochure and it was like, discover Panama, the secret location between the well-known Costa Rica and Colombia location. So Panama's come a long way. I mean, Panama is a very special situation because it's a small coffee community. A lot of people that are new to coffee, a lot of immigrants that are sort of taking different views of it, but also sharing. So Panama has been very lucky because, when you talk about terroir, it's not only, climate, it's not only soil, it's not only weather, climate again, it's also people and what influence they have. And Panama was able to develop on its own. It didn't have, like Colombia, a very sort of strong government or association that defined how things work. But it was being defined by roasters, particularly in the US, that defined the Panamanian cup as X, Y, or Z. I mean, the first BOP, we had a fantastic coffee that was kicked out of the BOP for being too African.
To what?
African.
Got kicked out for being too
African
African
it basically
in
was
nature.
like, hey, this isn't like the soft, chocolatey, sweet profile with acidity if you're lucky. So
You were too real for them,
it's
Kai.
because, sorry?
You were too real for them.
It was too different. I mean, it was it was like, James and the Giant Peach just was like James and the Giant Blueberry, and there were currants and different things. I mean, it was a crazy, super, super Kenyan. I mean, Panama has special attributes because of, as people show, the two coasts, different things. But I'd also say it's incredible because you have two hemispheres coming together from South and North America. But in particular, my pet theory, still hasn't been proven, but is that one of the reasons that Panama is so special is because of the beetles. Beetles produce a ton of yeast, like different unique yeast. So you have different areas, and Panama has just incredible insect life. So that creates the possibility of different yeasts that have different flavors. Obviously the volcanic soil, because we have, two different sides. Volcan is older, doesn't have the new soil that Volcan is, where we're from. But it's, that's sort of, all of those come together.
It seems like there's just so much converging at the one point where it's just like, that's why it's consistently some of the best.
I mean, it
coffee
has
in the world.
special situations. I mean, for instance, we grow avocados, and we had a Colombian avocado expert come, and my cousin picked him up at the David airport. They're driving up to the farm, and the farm is, 1,350 meters. This is Las Lagunas, which is in Los Alpes, which is our traditional family farm. And the expert says to my cousin, hey, so what altitude are we going to? This is, of course, after he's flown from Colombia. And my cousin says 1350, and he goes, okay, take me back to the airport. And he goes, why? He's like, you can't grow avocados at 1350. But we thrive growing avocados in Panama, but in Colombia, it has to be over 1,600 meters.
Over 1,600 meters.
So that's, that just sort of shows how different it is. And if you look in the clouds, at least from Volcan side, you'll see different layers. I mean, it's just a different pressure situation. It acts differently. So it is a very special place. Obviously, I'm opinionated, prejudice on all of this. Así soy, pero
What's the vibe like among Panama producers? And I'm sorry to throw you this
I'm not
question.
gonna know that I know the answer,
because
what's my perception of the vibe?
Well, I've spoken to some people that say there's sometimes a little bit of drama between some of the Panama growing families.
Pana-drama?
Pana-drama is the word. Yeah, is that true?
I did do the trademark on it. I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
Just because
Fake news?
That's a really good answer. No, I mean, I think that any situation has different situations, right?
Is there a competitive nature among you to be growing the best coffee?
Is there a competitive nature amongst brothers growing up? Yes. But we're still all a family, right? So that's kind of the key, is that vibe. Because if you're not competitive, maybe you don't do anything. I mean, the reason that Panama thrived from my perspective, besides, this discovery of Geisha, by the Peterson family and Rick Reinhardt and other things, is that we had to do it differently. Panama, the Specialty Coffee Association of Panama, couldn't afford the COE. So they did their own version, which was the best of Panama. And the Best of Panama is really different than the COE. In other words, when you're in the Best of Panama, producers and judges who are also buyers are sitting at the same table. So you get to interact, and the feedback circle in terms of what you want to do with coffee is that much shorter and that much more alive. I mean, Panama has some disadvantage when you look at it. I mean, like Pepe Gijon over it in, love Pepe. He gets to like cultivate and harvest coffee year round. I mean, I would love to have the opportunity to do. I mean, our learning cycle is 1 year. We have one harvest. We don't have two harvests like some places in Colombia. We aren't almost full year like Ecuador and other places because they have different rainy seasons. We have a rainy season from basically April to November.
And does it
then
just keep on raining?
But it stops. Yeah, it just rains like every day. So used to be, weather patterns are changing, but it used to be that you could do everything in the morning and at 1 o'clock, the spigot turns on.
So that's an interesting sort of angle to come at with what you said about weather just now and it changing. So anecdotally speaking, you've watched the seasons sort of vary over the years?
This year, like we had Mikael Jason come to the farm with his lovely wife, Yessie, and his team. And it should have been beautiful. And Mickey had never seen it rain in Panama because he's always come for coffee season. And it rained like just almost the whole time they were there. Actually, when he left Volcán and went to Boquete, it stopped raining. But it was disappointing because it would have been great to do it otherwise. So we had to process coffee differently. I mean, as a coffee producer, you want to become like a wine producer and know how to produce great quality. I think we have our best year ever in coffee, and it hasn't been the best weather. So it shows how much we as a family, how much our team, how much everyone has learned how to do things differently. So I'm really happy with this year.
So do you have to kind of adapt in that sense? Like, so say for example, if it's too wet during the harvest, then you can't dry naturally. So it's more wash coffees?
You have to do wash, yeah. So for instance, with Mickey and Chatur, although it's spelled Catur, it is pronounced Chatur. We do different inoculations. We started this relationship, 2022, 2021. In the time frame that he was there, we wanted to inoculate naturals, which is usually what we do, but we couldn't do it. So I'd done some work with Gary Ong from Wave Technology from Singapore, and I'd already started we had a demucilaging machine. So we did demucilage like geisha for the first time on our farm, and I inoculated with his Kopi Luwak inoculation. And then I dried that coffee in our Janson X special drying things with fresh geisha blossoms, and it creates a totally different experience. So you're doing different things to create special experiences from shitty weather. Excuse me.
No, you're right. What did that coffee taste like? How was it?
It's here. It's unbelievable. I mean, that's so floral that it's almost like, you can taste or feel that beautiful silky, flower of the geisha.
Where can we get it?
Go to Chatur. They're the people that have it.
All right, we'll go there. We'll pack up after this and we'll
Let's
go there. Best coffee I've had at the show yet. One of your coffees, a wash lot roasted by Rose Coffee, Matt Winton. So I don't know if that's the same one, but it was incredible, Kai.
Awesome. Thank you.
What was it like for you when Boram won the World Barista Championship using your coffee? Like, what's it like to win the World Barista Championship as a producer?
It was a very personal and family experience, I'd say. I mean, like, number one, the reason that we all connected was because a whole load of connections of friends based from being in Milan for hosts when we finally had a championship. Matt won, and Boram was there, but I met Danilo as well. And Danilo wanted to bring Boram to the farm to pick out a coffee for his Brewers Cup in Brazil. And I was actually also competing in Brewers, and I'd created a brewing method and a blend with Justin, actually, because the whole point was to actually combine Volcán and Boquete, because there is some, let's call it, healthy friction between the two. So it kind of blew people's mind that I was not just using my coffee, and Justin hadn't reached that sort of level of notoriety yet. And I got third place, and I feel very lucky I got third, because then Danilo and Garam said, "Hey, I've got a question for you." I'm like, "What's your question?" And they're like, "Can we use your brewing method, your blend, and your presentation for Garam's thing?" And I'm like, "Blank, yeah." And and they did. And I went to Brazil to support Garam. And because of my flight process, I wasn't going to be there for the announcement, so I changed it. And I got to fly to Sao Paulo and meet the whole family and just love them. I mean, what they do for Brazilian specialty, I mean, they're just beautiful people, period. But, you know, Garam's the head of a coffee school, the whole 9 yards. I'm like, all right, you guys are competing. Let's, you know, you're going to get everything that I've got. So we sat down and cupped all their coffees, and they were able to get access, which I couldn't do now just because of how things have changed. But basically that was my focus. So it was sort of that love and connection. So that was really important to me. But then at the same time, Danny Ritchie he used our coffee in Milan, and just a beautiful person. And he and Boram are up there. And just before that, my family, who I'd taken to Athens, had sat in the Italian section. And the Italians know me from 2021. So they're like, "Hey, Kai." And then I'm like sitting there in the Brazilian sections on the other side. And I look at my family and I go, "We got to go." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" "We got to go." So we left. Like, "Where are you going?" And I went over there. So I felt really, really torn because I love Danny too. So it was very tough to see them both up there.
But still,
And so Boram won, and Boram's just an amazing human and a great ambassador for coffee, and the espresso that he brewed was the best espresso in my life. It's still high above any others that I tasted there in Athens. So I had fun being on the stage and tasting it and sharing, you know. So it was fantastic. It was something that we worked on, and you know, it takes a team. Like, everything matters, you know. So it was really lovely. I still, like, when I saw Danny, I'm sorry. He's like, but he's just so beautiful. It's like, yeah, it's all good.
It's interesting. I just remembered. So at the beginning of this year, I got flown out from Australia to Dubai with some milk. So one of the competitors wanted me to bring some milk.
Did you taste it?
I did, and it was so Aldi from the Espresso Lab made a coffee using your coffee and the Australian Riverina Fresh
I was
milk.
thinking of this, yeah.
Oh, it was just one of the best coffees I've ever had.
Yeah.
And it just
How do you describe it?
It was like biting into a real cookie or pecan tart and something like a little bit of velvet and some fruit. It was unbelievable.
Because the way I describe it is like, you know, when you put like a fresh, ripe raspberry on your finger and you feel it there, like, that's how it was for me.
Really?
Yeah. I had it 3 times, and I did get that feeling too. One, it was more along what you're talking, which was more
because it just
creamy and sugary, but fruity, and it was red fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And that coffee was roasted by a roaster in Bali, and he prepared the milk that you brought.
Yes.
The special Australian milk.
Yeah.
And that was one of my best milk drinks ever. I mean, I've been in this in a while. There's totally different styles of how espresso is. I mean, you know, Kent Baki, who's La Marzocco, like, he's still, the old school is the old school. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see how things change, especially when we see how Robusta is changing, how that's going to come into espresso.
Yeah, well, this is one of the things about those high-end coffees. I feel like not enough people are brave enough to roast them for espresso or milk in shop use. And I think some of the best, not all of it should be made that way. Like, I wouldn't make a Janson washed Geisha as a flat white, for example. Although maybe I should try. It'd be good. But like some of your...
It depends on the milk and how you do the extraction.
Some of your coffees, for example, for the naturals and the anaerobic naturals, are just incredible. Like the Panama Geishas, and, you know, often gets seen in competition use. So do you like knowing that your coffee is used in a variety of ways, or?
Absolutely. I mean, in a way, the whole point is to create something that people interact and connect with, right? Because what their vision doesn't have to be my vision, you know? I do have a hard time when people sort of like have a geisha that's a pour over and they're like, "Oh, milk." I'm like, "Wait a second." And usually when they try it, they see the whole difference. I mean, I have a roasting business in Washington State where I do roast in a traditional fashion, but the whole point is to make something so good and sweet that they don't feel the need for milk or sugar. I mean, coffee is whatever is your favorite coffee should always be your favorite coffee. There's no hierarchy It's just new experiences that you connect to. It's pretty remarkable that we can even start to connect with it. I mean, as you look at sort of philosophically or ontologically, how people are realizing that we actually interact and create our own reality with the world. So you do create your own luck in how you see things, you know.
Where else would you like to go with processing your coffee? Because you were mentioning you did that thing with drying with the flowers and using the wave
So
machine.
where I would like to go is actually sharing more of it all over the world, right? To be going into different regions to really sort of bring a new understanding and a sharing to raise quality. I mean, in a way, you could say that quality is, you know, the more the scarcity, the higher the price. And from my perspective, that's still old world looking at somehow, you know, something that's special that I can have that you can't have is actually a good relationship. I don't see that. I think something that we can both share and grow is better. Us being healthier is better than one being sick and the other being, you know, healthy. So I look to it again to connect and raise consciousness. I mean, I see coffee, especially the real connection of coffee, is as being one of the sanctums right now of trying to see how to evolve in a beautiful way as humans with our environment.
What do you make of this new scoring system for coffee, CVA? Because I've asked a few people about it today, and
You know, I think I have an opinion. You know, whether my opinion is valid or not, it's just an opinion for me. I mean, it is an opinion. I think that we'll have to see how it floats. I think that by having sort of the new scoring system and the old scoring system will evolve into a different sort of scoring system. I mean, the fundamental question is, how do we value coffee in a way that we can connect with each other as to how we value coffee? So, you know, there are going to be different iterations of that. I mean, I'm very intrigued in it because I think that sharing people's opinion of what you do and how you do with coffee is important. So it's personal. I mean, it's subjective, but yet you're trying to make it objective in a way that's connected. So I did take the CVA course. I did the other things. We had a hard time because, you know, we're very much into our way of scoring, which is sort of the old way. That we'll see how it goes.
who are some of your coffee idols? Who are you're someone I look up to in the coffee industry?
Who are some of my
coffee idols?
coffee
Idols, like
idols,
mentors.
idols? Price Peterson.
Who's that?
Price is the father of Rachel and and Daniel. I think
They're the owners
you know,
of
one of my
Esmeralda?
biggest idols in coffee right now, Mikael Jason.
Why's that?
Why? Because Mickey and Kenny started Chatur, and the whole point was to raise the level and the livelihood and the quality of life of the many, many farmers of Indonesia that grow coffee. So they were able to build a partnership with the Indonesian government in a beautiful way to create new strains, test new things that actually raise quality and raise the quality of life for people. I mean, and when they show up in one place, they'll have like 1,000 families thanking them. And that's what coffee is. It's still lifting and connecting. I mean, for me, it's like we have a big fight right now between the old world of scarcity to the new world of abundance. You know, abundance is a completely different economy of scale. The more fax machines you have, the more the more powerful it is. It's not like, okay, one phone. Boy, that's really, no. How you connect is a different way.
Well, yeah, coffee's almost got like a bit of an existential issue coming up because the average age of a coffee farmer is quite high. We had Carlos Escobar on here the other day saying it's 58 years old in Colombia, and I think it's similar in Indonesia. So what do we do to entice more people to grow coffee, and what do we do to lift the standards?
Well, I mean, if you follow agriculture in general, you realize that agriculture is always a cycle, right? So if something becomes more valuable, people try to do it more to the extent that it becomes so much that it becomes less valuable in the traditional way of how that works. So I think that there's a lot of excitement. I mean, for me, you know, when 2017 Seattle SCA show was amazing to see the level of connection and love and passion. So I think that is an issue, but not an issue that I entertain in a way that I think it's vital. I think right now it's vital to learn as much as we can to improve coffee in general so that people value it more. And that's something that Panama and the best of Panama and SCAP have really helped. I mean, in the old days, I mean, you asked about 19 all those times, roasters held all the cards and they didn't have the risk and they gained everything. Growing coffee is hard, harder than you think, hard. But there are incredible benefits and there are ways that it's changed. And it's really Asia that's changed coffee more than anybody else because they've had a tradition of valuing the producer in ways that you don't see. You see it in wine, you see it in other things, but you don't, I mean, in France, you see it more than other places. But the US, you know, for the most part, you don't value the best tomato guy. You don't value the best grapes. But you look at some place in Japan and you'll see like the price and everything to the perfection. And there's an intentionality that's very different.
World of Coffee's coming to Panama next year. What are your thoughts? Being a Panamanian producer, it's also going to have the World Barista Championship. How do you
think that
feel?
given my experience here, I'm excited about it because it's not only Panama, it's Latin America. So, I mean, that's the whole point. And Panama's sort of central. So I think that's going to be fantastic.
Can I come to the farm in advance? Do some
You
filmmaking?
know, I'm trying not to say this, but the problem that October has for Panama is it's the
Busy
fill
season.
in the blank. No, the worst time ever to come to Panama.
What if I come earlier, right? What if I come
No,
earlier?
I mean, like literally, I told you we had a rainy season. Like people are going to be going there, hey, I'm going to go to the farm and et cetera. And it's like, you're going to look at green cherries, right? Nobody's processing coffee. It's not like, so it's, how it lines up is an ideal. So we'll see how to overcome that with, I mean, we're very creative as Panamanians.
I'm sure you get around
and
it.
love to, and the people that are organizing it and all of that. So it's going to be lovely, but it's going to be hot, humid, and rainy.
What's one thing that we haven't spoken about today that you would like the listener, the viewer, to be aware of? What would you like to say?
That
we
you
haven't-
change the name of the show. I'm kidding. What would I? I mean, I don't know. I'd rather ask you the question. Like, what I want to know is like, how do we make all of this sustainable in terms of the creative way that we can create coffee and connect with each other? The biggest problem that we have in coffee today is really transportation. And because as a small farmer, you still rely on a lot of different ways to get your farm to the market. And containers, shipping, different rules. And now when trade is really changing because we have players that are deciding to use it as a political weapon, how do we overcome this? I mean, is it existential? Is it continuing? I don't know what it is a question.
Well, I mean, if you had asked me this question as well, I mean, like I'm beginning to sound like a bit of a broken record on it now, but I feel like we need a bit more insight and media in coffee to the point where like we entertain the average person. And so when we do that, I think we'll get the level of interest that we want. Obviously, markets will dictate prices a lot of the time. And look, I just think coffee's on a really good trajectory right now, despite there being really sort of bleak issues. On the whole, it's on a really good trajectory. And we just got to keep on rolling, baby. We just got to keep on going.
I think so. I mean, I think that we have to bring this hospitality. I mean, I visited you in Melbourne, and for me, Melbourne has just been an inspiration because of the level of hospitality and how we as different cultures can come together and actually celebrate each other in a winning way rather than separate each other in a losing way. So that's sort of my thing. It's like, right now when I'm here, part of what I get to do is I get to teach people how to brew coffee differently. It's like if you pour high, you're going to have more acidity in your coffee, less sweetness. Your cup's going to change. Any sort of roughness in your cup's going to be less sweet than fully porcelain or even glass. So just because every little thing matters, so you start to look at the world differently. And those little changes in our perception allow us to value things differently.
Well, Kai, I remember when you did come to Melbourne, you came and actually helped me out when I was doing a little pop-up after the World Barista Championship. And you're a badass, man. You're a badass. And
love you, man. Love you. The fun part was that you served me the coffee. You served me our coffee.
Yeah, well, of course,
Janson
I
coffee.
love it.
It was so good. It was so great, man. Really enjoyed that day. Thank you.
I'll continue to do so, but we'll wrap it up here. Thanks so much for coming on. You're a legend, and thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you, man.
All right.
Let's go.
That's it for the coffee show, everyone. Oh, I almost forgot. Kai, I almost forgot. If you would like some world-class brew gear, consider Timor. Timor has good kettles. Timor's got good grinders. Timor's got good hand grinders. They got good serving ware. They got more coming on the way. timemore.com.
I love Timor. Yeah,
You love
it's a beautiful
Timor?
thing. Yeah, I love their scales, love their different things. Yeah,
Well,
good people.
even the interviewee, the legend, Kai Janson, loves to get around the ad read. So
Although, they're great. I'm going to say one thing. I wish they'd turn down their volume when they have the announcements over here at the booth, because one
Okay.
side, it's like, all I hear is Cole and Matt, and I'm just like, what? No, I love Time More. And as I say, Time More for coffee and art, or Time More for coffee and innovation.
time more, timeless moments. All right, let's wrap it up there. Hooroo, everyone. Thank you for listening.